The winter wind howled through the broken cracks of the wooden hut like a hungry animal. Inside, a widow named Ilara sat on the cold floor, her thin arms wrapped around her youngest child. Around her, 8 other children huddled, together beneath worn blankets that barely deserved the name. Their stomachs growled louder than the storm outside. It had been 3 days since they had eaten a full meal. Ilara's husband had died the previous year in a mining accident, leaving her with debts, grief, and 9 small mouths to feed. She had sold everything of value, her jewelry, her furniture, even her wedding dress. Now only the hut remained, and even that seemed ready to collapse. That night, her eldest daughter whispered, "Mama, will we eat tomorrow?" Ilara forced a smile, though her heart shattered. "Yes," she said softly. "Tomorrow will be better." But she didn't believe it. The next morning, she walked to the village market with trembling legs. She had nothing left to sell, yet desperation pushed her forward. Vendors avoided her eyes. Everyone knew her story. Everyone knew she had nothing left to trade. Except one man. He stood at the edge of the market, dressed in a plain dark coat. His beard was streaked with gray, his boots dusty from travel. He watched her carefully as she moved from stall to stall, begging for scraps. Most turned her away. Finally, he stepped forward. "I will give you food," he said calmly. Ilara froze. Suspicion flickered in her eyes. "Why?" "Because I need a wife," the stranger replied. His voice was steady, almost emotionless. "Marry me, and your children will never starve again." The market fell silent around them. Ilara felt heat rise to her face. Marriage? To a stranger? She looked at her children in her mind, their hollow cheeks, their weak cries at night. Pride fought with desperation, and desperation was winning. "What kind of man asked this?" she whispered. "A man who keeps his promises," he said. "I have food, shelter, security. Decide by sunset." He turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the dust with the weight of the world pressing on her chest. All day she wandered. She imagined refusing and returning to the hut empty-handed. She imagined her children growing thinner, quieter, until they stopped crying altogether. By sunset, her choice was made. She found the stranger waiting at the edge of the village. Her voice shook as she spoke. "I will marry you, but my children come with me." He nodded once. "Of course." No celebration followed. No music, no flowers. A village elder muttered the vows in a dim corner of the chapel. Ilara's hands trembled as the stranger placed a simple ring on her finger. That night, he led her and the children down a long road out of the village. The children clung to her dress, frightened but hopeful. After hours of walking, they reached a massive iron gate hidden among tall trees. Ilara stared in disbelief. Ilara's eyes widened as the gates closed behind them with a heavy clang. The air smelled of fresh bread, blooming flowers, and polished wood, scents she had only ever read about in storybooks. Her children stared in awe, their mouths open, tiny hands gripping hers tightly. A young servant stepped forward, bowing low. "Madam Ilara, your rooms are ready. Dinner will be served shortly." Ilara shook her head, unable to speak. Her mind was racing. Is this real? How could a stranger provide all this? Who is he really? The stranger, whose name she had learned was Alaric, merely smiled. "You don't need to ask," he said softly. "Everything here is yours now. You and your children will never want for anything again." As they walked through the grand hall, walls adorned with golden frames and glittering chandeliers, Ilara felt a mix of gratitude and unease. She had married him out of desperation, not trust. Yet everything he promised was real. Her stomach twisted. Relief and suspicion warred within her. At dinner, the table was laden with dishes she didn't even recognize. Roasted meats, fresh fruits, bread still warm from the oven. The children ate with hunger-driven frenzy, giggling as they discovered flavors they had never tasted before. Ilara hesitated. This is all yours?" she asked, looking at Alaric. He nodded. "It is mine, yes, but now it is yours as well." She studied him carefully. There was a quiet dignity in the way he spoke, a calm authority that seemed to fill the room. Yet there was a guardedness in his eyes, a hint that he had secrets, shadows she couldn't yet reach. After dinner, he led them on a tour of the estate. Rooms stretched endlessly, bedrooms for each child, a library filled with books from floor to ceiling, a garden so large that the children ran ahead and disappeared behind the hedges. Every corner revealed another wonder: fountains, stables, even a small pond with golden fish that shimmered in the moonlight. Finally, they came to a study at the top of the house. Alaric closed the door behind them and turned to face her. "I know you must have questions," he said quietly. "Questions about who I am and why I live this life so alone." Elara swallowed hard. "Yes, I married you because I had no choice. But I need to understand. Why me? Why my children?" Alaric sighed and walked to a large wooden desk. He opened a hidden drawer and pulled out a set of documents, revealing land deeds, business contracts, and accounts of wealth that seemed impossible. "I own much, but what I've never had is family. When I saw you struggling, I recognized something I had lost long ago: hope, resilience, and love. I could provide for you, yes, but what I truly wanted was the chance to build a family that mattered." Elara felt her chest tighten. She had expected greed, exploitation, or coldness. Instead, she found honesty, humility, and a desire for connection. Her mind drifted back to the moment she agreed to marry him. The next morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows of their new home, casting golden patterns across the polished floors. For the first time in years, Elara woke without the gnawing ache of hunger in her stomach. Her children were already up, exploring rooms and discovering treasures at every turn. The eldest, a boy named Thomas, found a chest full of toys and squealed in delight. Elara followed them slowly, her heart swelling with an emotion she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. She finally allowed herself to imagine a life beyond survival, a life where laughter and learning replaced fear and starvation. Alaric appeared in the hall, his presence calm but commanding. "Breakfast is ready," he said simply, though his eyes held warmth. "And today I would like you to see the full estate." The tour was like stepping into a storybook. They wandered through sunlit gardens, past orchards heavy with fruit, and into stables where gentle horses nuzzled the children's hands. Everywhere they went, servants bowed politely but with friendliness, eager to help the children feel at home. Elara paused near a small greenhouse filled with exotic plants and herbs. She ran her fingers along the leaves, marveling at the care it took to maintain such beauty. Alaric stood beside her quietly. "You see," he said softly, "all of this, the wealth, the land, the comforts, they mean nothing without people to share them with. That's why I wanted you and your children. I have the world, but I've never had family." Elara looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, she saw not a stranger, but a man who had made a choice as courageous as hers. A man who had risked opening his life to outsiders, trusting in something deeper than gold or power. Days passed, and life at the estate became a rhythm. The children went to tutors, learning letters and numbers, music and art. Elara began exploring her own passions, reading books from the vast library, tending to the gardens, and slowly, piece by piece, letting herself heal. One evening, as they sat together in the grand hall, Alaric brought out a small, simple gift, a locket for each child. "To remind you," he said, "that you are never alone." The children beamed, and even Elara felt a tear slip down her cheek. The gesture was simple, yet it spoke volumes of care, commitment, and love that had not existed in their lives before. Elara realized that the stranger she had married out of desperation was not merely a provider of food and shelter. He was a man who could see value in a broken family, who understood that love and security were far more precious than gold. Months turned into years, and the children grew strong, happy, and confident. The laughter that once seemed impossible now echoed through the halls, and Elara, once a starving widow, found herself standing in a garden under the sunset, hand in hand with Alaric, truly free of fear and full of gratitude.